All right, so round three, we have white again, and we're playing Joaquin Carlson, another opponent rated 2100 plus, 2141 at the time of this game. Um, so I play e4, and we get a Sicilian. So against the Sicilian, I had prepared a closed Sicilian with bishop b5. Um, we get knight d4, and now I had prepared knight f3, e6, castles, a6, bishop drops back to d3, and then knight e7. So knight e7 is my first move out of book. It felt like I should just continue with the plan that I understood, which is to take the knight on d4 and play knight e2, eventually play c3. Yeah, that was sort of the idea. So d5. d5, I thought maybe I could just take this and play c3, but I wasn't totally sure. And also, I really like the idea of artificially isolating this pawn on d4 where my knight is pressuring it by playing the move e5. And I started to look at this line, e5, knight c6, f4, knight b4, and then I saw the move rook f3 there. So rook f3, the idea is to not allow my pawns to get doubled on the d file, and then I'll be able to play like maybe a3, takes on d3, rook takes d3, and I'll put pressure on this d4 pawn. That was the idea, at least. So this happens actually, and now we get the move bishop d7. So king h1, bishop c5, and here's what I'll say about this position is that this idea with rook f3, I think, is probably not the most accurate, for one reason. The reason is it avoids doubling the pawns on the d file, leaving the pawn on c2, which seems like it might be a good thing for white. However, black's source of play in this position, my source of play is I'm going to try to take on d4. My idea at this point was to go at some point b3, bishop b2, and even queen g1 if necessary, win the pawn on d4, and then build the position from there after. But I should be pawn up, and I'll be able to play at that point c3. Probably my bishop will have been captured at this point, so I'll have a rook on d3. Maybe the rook swings over to the king side. I had all these ideas in mind, but black's source of counterplay is going to be to play rook c8, stuff on the c file, and if I am not able to take this pawn and play c3, then the pawn on c2 becomes very weak. So perhaps I should have, in this position, just forced the matter with a3, or maybe even just b3, allow the knight to take on d3, take with the c pawn, and just play against this this d4 pawn with these pawns here. Maybe this would have been a better way of playing, but okay. In the game, I play a3 takes, bishop b5. I gain a tempo with rook g3 on the g7 pawn. Black takes time out and plays g6. Now b4, and b4 is aimed at getting the bishop to b2 faster, forcing the bishop to retreat. And now it's possible that I should take a timeout. I play in the game bishop b2. And bishop b2 is basically saying, okay, I want to take this pawn on d4. You don't have a good way to defend it other than taking the knight. And you don't really want to take the knight, or so I thought. In the game, black does take the knight. Perhaps in this position, it would have been better to start with d3, not allowing the knight to be captured. I could potentially run into issues with bishop on a4, rook on c8, but the knight will be able to take on d4, defending c2 at some times. Worst case, I can bring a rook back to defend. And overall, once the knight is captured and the light square bishop is off the board, the pressure on the c pawn becomes very real after rook c8. I don't have a good way of defending the c pawn without playing c3 and just accepting that my plan to win the d4 pawn is not going to occur. which I really wanted to win the d4 pawn. It was still in my head that I could do this. But at this point, I think it's too late. I played d3, permanently setting my pawn on c2 as backward and a weakness for the rest of the game. Meanwhile, black's weakness on d4 is solid. It's sort of blocking the bishop from getting to more active squares, but you only really need one weakness to start to make some problems in the position. If you can pile against this thing, maybe if I end up in a fully defensive posture with all my pieces defending the weakness, all of yours attacking, you can just start to push an H pawn or something and try to generate weakness over there. But black would be pressing. So this sort of happens. Rook c6, rook f3, queen b6, rook f2. And now king d7. King d7, I'm sort of realizing that the king is running over to the queen side. That will give black a free hand on the king side, and the rooks will be piling up here on the c file. So I think g4, I have to start making some counterplay. And I do successfully create some counterplay. f5, takes, rook e8. Rook e8 I felt was sort of a strange move, but okay. It's a move. Also, e takes f5 I thought was a little bit strange. I was more anticipating a g takes f5 as not to allow like a sort of breakthrough, as sort of what happens in the game. After rook f1, king b8, I now do a breakthrough tactic with e6. e6 takes an f6. And now I'm a pawn down. I've sacrificed a pawn to get this pawn on f6. Pawn on f6 is the life of my position, though. The bishop on a7 has a very hard time stopping it from queening. And so what that means is that my bishop can come around to the h6 square. And you're going to have to sacrifice an exchange, at least, in order to prevent my pawn from queening. My opponent found a very good resource here. So first rook f8, and after rook f8, I need to play f7 because what I don't want to allow is the blockade to occur on f7. I need the blockade to be on f8 so that my bishop, once it gets here, will attack it. If the rook is on f7 blockading, I can't really attack it with any of my pieces. So f7. Now the move queen c7 felt very strange to me. I didn't understand it. And so I kept going with my plan, bishop c1. The queen on c7 looks like it's running into bishop f4 as well as bishop h6. So I was very confused. What am I missing in this position? And the answer is very unclear. I mean, this position should be not good for black, but g5 is a resource. The move g5 stops bishop f4 and bishop h6. It can be captured as I play, but then e5 stops both moves, bishop h6 and bishop f4. The rook is defending the square laterally, and the pawn is now stopping the bishop from grabbing this diagonal. And so I was sort of mystified at this point how g5 was working. I mean, yes, I see the thing is about it though. I recaptured a pawn, so I'm no longer even a pawn down. Black is the center, but I'm not very worried about the center. The bishop on a7 is very passive. So and also at some point I will be able to play like maybe queen h5, bishop h6, or like bishop f6 to taking something. At some point I should be able to even now a move bishop f6 is probably very good. But at some point I should be able to win this position. I felt that this was a winning position for white. I play rook f5, attacking the e5 pawn, potentially preparing the bishop wrapping around. And my opponent plays this move king a8. And at this point, it's move 31, and I need to use the restroom. So I'm looking at stuff. I'm like, okay, I just need to play a move that doesn't throw everything away. There's the e5 pawn that I can take with the rook or the queen. If I take it with the rook, then maybe there's rook takes f7, rook e8, bishop b8. I don't know. I mean, I'm not totally sure. Maybe there something. Queen takes e5. What move does he play on queen takes e5? If takes, I just take with the rook. I'm gonna get into e8. If he doesn't do anything, I'm threatening queen e8. If like queen goes to c8, um, if the queen goes to c8, I'll be able to play like bishop e7. I should just be completely crushing, breaking through. So I play queen takes e5, which looks very good. Unfortunately, I come back from the bathroom and rook takes f7 is on the board, and I think that my entire advantage is gone. It's very unfortunate how this works out. If I take the Well, okay, if I take the queen, then just rook takes queen. So that is not what I want to be doing. Rook 7 takes queen, this one. If I play queen e8 check, which is sort of what I thought I would have here, then there's the move bishop b8. And if I take the rook, there's a checkmate on h2. Was the point of king a8, which I completely overlooked. Very unfortunate because the position was completely winning. And now suddenly I look at this line, queen e8, bishop b8, bishop f4, rook takes f5, bishop takes queen, takes on f1 with check, king g2, rook takes, bishop as not to allow checkmate, I take on f1, and then rook takes c2, attacking h2, and that's the position we get in the game. So let's just go down here for a second. This position, and this position arises. If anyone's better, it is still white, but black has these pawns in the middle. It's difficult to know exactly what to do. Um, the other line that I was vaguely considering was the move rook takes f7, a queen sacrifice, queen takes e5, rook f8, bishop b8, bishop f4, and here I was getting a little optimistic. However, I think in the initial position, after rook takes, what was my line here? Rook takes f7, queen takes, a check, bishop b8, bishop f4. What was my line here? Maybe here? Here, and then if, oh yeah. If bishop takes, the problem is he can take on f1. Rook takes f1, king takes b8, and I'm not really better here. My c-pawn is backward. It's equal material. I don't know. Maybe I could play this rook in game for a while, but it just didn't feel like that was, I can get the queen for the rook and bishop position, so I should probably go for that instead. It's just very sad that that this happens like this. Also, the move queen takes d5. There's unfortunately move rook takes c2, threatening this mate, and if bishop f4, then there's rook takes f5, and this move now is actually a checkmate on f1 if this happens. Checkmate. So queen takes e5 has to be a blunder, whether or not there's a way for white to still. White is probably still better, but white is probably not winning anymore. And probably in this position with a move like rook takes e5, white is probably winning because after this move, rook takes f7, rook e8. If bishop goes to b8 now, I can even take on b8 in this position. If king takes, then I play queen e8, queen f7, and if queen takes, then the f7 rook is already hanging. I'm going to be up a bishop. So this move would have been completely winning, but not played, and so we get this position, rook d2, b5, trying to weaken his king. If the king is weaker, I felt maybe I could have some sort of play, takes, a check, rook takes a3. I take on b7. Important not to take the pawn because that allows for forks. So king a7, queen b5, rook a6, takes here. And now the problem for me is that the pawn on h6 is defended by the rook. This pawn is going to be captured, so it's just going to be queen versus rook and bishop, where the rook is just going to sit on the 6th rank. I played this position for a very long time. but couldn't make anything of it. I think maybe in this position, the only try might be the move Queen H8. I was looking at this when I was analyzing after the game. I don't know if it's right, but the idea is I can't make any progress unless I have another passed pawn. I need my H pawn to be a. I need his H pawn off the board, and there's not a good way to defend the H pawn in this position. I'm also attacking D4 pawn with check now. Um, So yeah, I think this probably would have been a better try. I really just need the H pawn. I was getting scared of these pawns though. That was the problem. I was getting scared of these pawns running. Maybe a bishop and a rook can work together to do something. But I just made move 40. I have time. I should really be trying to find the best thing that I can do. Queen H8 probably would have been that thing. After Queen B5, this game goes on for a very long time. We just go very deeply through the moves. I try many different things. Eventually positions to draw. I try this interesting idea with Queen G6. If you take it, uh, I'll take with the pawn and white will win the game because the bishop can't stop the pawn. But after I run over to the C5 square, then it is actually able to be captured. And this position is a draw only because of the fact that this H pawn is the wrong color. So my king will just simply run back to the corner and even though black has an extra bishop, it's still a draw. So played for 113 moves. Probably the last chance that I really had in the game was right here with Queen H8. So it's an unfortunate draw because I was definitely winning. I think it was probably also definitely worse for a little bit of it. But let's take a look with the engine. So up until 97, I'm in book, and knight takes d4 is the correct continuation. 92, d5, and now here I played e5. Rook e1 is a move, or just going c3, or taking on d5. All of these are moves. e5 is a very ambitious setup, I think. Knight c6 is the right way to play. f4, knight b4, and yeah, here rook f3. Rook f3 is probably a fine move. Yeah, white's still better, but I probably, even if he takes the bishop, don't want to take with the rook. Oh, I do want to take with the rook in this scenario. Okay, so I don't really know, but b3 allowing the knight to take on d3 is probably the what I should do. Um, just saying, okay, I'm gonna have these double d pawns, but so do you. Your second d pawn is worse than mine. And then I'll, we can both play on the c file. Maybe all the majors come off. We play some endgame. I don't know. Something like that. Now I play king h1, bishop c5, a3 forcing the matter. And yeah, here's my final chance to admit that, okay, taking with the rook is not the best idea. I should take with the c-pawn, which I didn't do. Took with the rook. And now, after rook g3, already black should just take this knight as not to allow d3. D3, yeah, so I should play d3. And if I play d3, maybe I still have stuff to play for. I can play b4, bishop b2, queen g1, as mentioned. Now bishop takes e2 another time. d3 again, it should be played. And now I find bishop b2 is the final move that allows the bishop to capture the knight. This was a big oversight. I just assumed that this capture would favor me, but it really does not. Now the c file is a liability. d3 is not helping the matter. Oops. d3. Yeah, d3, rook c6. Black is better here. Queen b6 was a strange move, but I didn't think he was terrible. Rook f2, king d7, g4. The computer already wants me to play f5. G takes f5, then g4, and just cranking it open that way. I guess it's like a tempo faster to do it that way. Makes some sense. G4 felt more natural to me with the idea of then going f5. Takes with the e pawn felt very wrong. My idea is to get these pawns rolling, or to take and play rook f7, try to get some counterplay over there. Taking with the e-pawn feels like it only helps me with doing that. Rook e8 is fine. Rook af1 is a good move. And now here, I think this move, king b8. Okay, so the breakthrough is not yet, well, it's mentioned. Okay, e6 and f6. Oh, e6 needs to be met with f6. I see. Taking on e6 is probably a losing move. Yes, f6, and I'm winning. Yeah, it's a very disappointing game. f6, rook f8, f7 important to not allow the blockade on f7. Queen c7, bishop c1, the move g5, kind of insane move. Bishop takes, e5, and any move. Rook f5, bishop f6, queen h5, all of these moves that I mentioned are completely winning. I play this one, which is completely winning, and after king a8 here, I throw it all away. I could play either queen h5, I can take on e5 with the rook, I can play any move that doesn't allow taking on f7, but instead, queen takes e5. And after rook takes f7, yeah, +1 is around what I was expecting it would be. Interesting that I want to play queen h8 rather than queen e8. Because it's attacking the h7 pawn. It's the same sort of idea in the game that I was looking at where I could play queen h8, except it's there right now. This would have been good to do. Queen h8. Of course, I look at queen h8, but I didn't see the difference. Queen e8 attacks a rook, so it felt more logical. But okay. But yeah, let's just quickly look at this and make sure that I was right. This isn't good. Yeah, queen takes, rook f8, bishop b8, bishop f4. Going queen e2, even queen e6 is possible here. Right. Okay, and then I'll have a bishop and rook for a queen and no mate. So, but even this this rook game I evaluated correctly as really only black is playing. Okay. The other move that I was trying to make work was queen e8. Well, there wasn't really another move I was trying to make work. Queen e8, bishop b8, bishop f4 only move. Rook takes f5, bishop takes c7, rook takes f1, king g2, rook takes c7, king takes f1, rook takes c2, h4 best move, rook d2, b5 best try, takes, ba, rook f3, king g2, here, king f2, take on here, here, here. And now I should play a different move. Queen h8 listed as a move, but queen b5 sort of throws it away because now I'm not touching the h-pawn. I need to take the h-pawn. If I take the h-pawn, I think there's a significant chance that I can win this game still. But after this move, queen b5, which felt very natural, rook a6, and now I can't win this game. Because h6 is going to come. My b-pawn will eventually be captured. Yeah, I can, take all this stuff, but this now is a fortress, and I don't think that there was ever a chance. Let's just tap through quickly to ensure there's never a chance. Yeah, I don't think there was a chance. I mean, there was times where, like here, where you had to be a little careful, but the moves were all pretty logical. And yeah, now I think it's black maybe a little bit better after bishop b5, but it's just a draw. Okay. So that was the game. It's a little bit of a heartbreaking game. Because I had so many chances to win. I was completely winning, in fact. But I was just tired. I lost concentration at various points in the game. Um, I think obviously in this position I'm capable of calculating like further. I just was like, I didn't sense that there was anything that black could really do that would be problematic, but I should be looking for all of the opponent's resources. By taking on e5, I'm opening this diagonal to my h2 pawn, and I just missed it. What else can be said? Um, so yeah, I guess this game was a draw. Uh, Still 2.5 out of 3 against 3 stronger opponents. So we're still having a good tournament, but this definitely took the wind out of my sails. And yeah, stay tuned for the next video. I will see you in that one. Thanks.